Jim Phillips had some comments yesterday that I quote tweeted, and I appreciate Jim about where his sensibilities lie. And I've said this about Jim Phillips before, that I think he is exactly what I would want in a conference commissioner, an NCAA president, except that what I would want and the reality of what we're experiencing in college athletics are not the same. And Jim is wondering whether or not the people who run college sports have the best interest in the whole. And I want to say, Jim, it ain't their job anymore. How do you view things like that?
Well, Jim has a seat at the table.
Right, but he ain't in charge. We know who's in charge.
Right, but he's there.
Right.
I mean, I think that all conference commissioners are hired at the pleasure of university presidents. Mm-hmm. And as I've said before, no conference is more difficult to get on the same page when you think of all the different university presidents, when you think of all the different athletic directors, the difference in university profile, not just public and private, but even what they, the makeup of the school, what their goals, the way that they look at the next 5, 10 to 15 years in higher education. And there's no bigger discrepancy in terms of athletic department, both in terms of budget, revenue spending, and specifically as it pertains to these kinds of topics, how much you invest in your football program and revenue sports. So I think Jim Phillips is dealing with some issues in those boardrooms in New Orleans, but man, I think it's tough for him to just be able to find a consensus and sort of be somebody who can get everybody on the same page in his own house.
Oh, there's no question that he's probably got the most difficult, president to commissioner environment to deal with, because you have so many vocal, maybe not so many, but you certainly have high profile, vocal, people pulling you in a direction you don't really want to be pulled in. Like I said, in the best case scenario, the people who run these sports do think about the whole, but they don't. And that's just, we know this. So that's why I've been critical of Jim with regards to maybe he's not the right guy to lead the ACC. It bothers me to say this because I have so much respect for Jim Phillips. But I don't know that there's a way around this. It's not just the ACC, but does the ACC or the Big 12, is there any leverage? Because I know the SEC would like a different seeding model for this upcoming year. And I saw it was Matt Hayes from Sporting News USA Today, used to be with Sporting News, who said this is where the ACC and the Big 12 can make themselves financially whole. And I'm like, really? Seeding going to do that?
Well, no. So seeding
is
leverage. Yeah, there is a leverage play here, and there's some calculations that I think are being made. For those who aren't aware, nothing can change for the college football playoff for 2025, the upcoming season, unless there is a unanimous vote from everybody. And that includes all of the power conferences, all of the group of 5 conferences, that entire 10, and plus Notre Dame, that 10 or 11 vote, board of managers. They all have to be on the same page with it. You do not need unanimous votes for what happens for 2026 and beyond. And that is what's made these meetings actually a little bit interesting, is what does the SEC and the Big Ten want in terms of what can be done immediately? And if they can get everyone on the same page, is there any I scratch your back, you scratch mine when it comes to the way things are going to be set up? Because the conversations they are having about 2026 and beyond is, are we going to 14? Are we going to 16? What is the setup going to be? Those are places where, especially with the 4-4-2-2-1-1 hike model, you are at a disadvantage, as we've talked about right here. Are there financial considerations? Are there ways that conference champions are going to be able to get some sort of advantageous edge in terms of the future model? If you give in to the desire to change the seating now? Are you going to help yourself for 2026 and beyond? And also, if you are the no vote, if you are the reason why it does not happen, are you screwing yourself over for any future vengeance that could be coming with 2026 and beyond? Because this one decision, whether we change the college football playoff at all for the 2025 season, is the only thing that really the ACC and the Big 12 have a say in. So I get where they're coming from here, but I don't have confidence. Like, just to skip to the end, I don't have confidence they're going to change it.
I don't think they will.
Think they're just gonna stay put. Yeah, I think they're just going to stay put.
Because we'll suck it up for one more year with a stupid system, a stupid seeding system, which probably impacted how it played out this year. I mean, the best team won. I got no problem with that. Ohio State, they sleptwalked through, unfortunately, a good chunk of the season. Didn't play up anywhere near their capability. And then when the lights went on, boom, they hit the ground and annihilated everybody.
I'll push back a little bit. They were a top 4 team all season.
Yeah, but they were winning, but they weren't winning the way. I mean, they could have, like, you and I talked about Indiana all year, and you and I were on opposite sides of that, and that's fine. Indiana got to where they were because they were crushing everybody they could.
Right.
Ohio State was not that. And then against Michigan, who wasn't all that great, albeit with some pretty good players, including some, maybe the first pick or one of the first picks in the draft. They lost that. Inexplicably lost a game they should not have lost. In another year, they would have been out of the playoff because of it. That was not the case this year, which is fine. I'm not arguing anything. But when the lights went on, we saw what Ohio State was all about, and that's cool, right? But I might have forgotten my larger, but I keep getting back to this. Why can't we have a system? And for the SEC and the Big Ten, you'll just wait it out a year, and then you have enough more control because you don't need a unanimous vote for going forward. This is the last year you would need to be unanimous. But I don't understand why the SEC and the Big Ten. I mean, I do, I guess, but if you were thinking about the whole, why don't we just go, all right, we're going to 16. If you get in, the top 5 conference champions get a spot. Everything else is at large, and you get compensated based on your involvement. Who would argue that?
The conferences that want guaranteed numbers.
So what? Get better. Why does it have to be anything other than, like, we can complain about the NCAA tournament, but in basketball. But ultimately, you get in, you get out what you put in.
I think
that's the way it should be in football.
I think the college football playoff did this year, and even would in the 4-4-2-2-1-1 hike, still be rewarding units for wins, but you also get paid based on how many teams you get in. And I think the conferences like the cost certainty of being able to know how many they're going to get right off the bat.
That's like LIV versus the PGA Tour. Why don't we just get paid for what we do? Not who we are.
It's a new era in America, baby.
I understand. But you understand my point, right?
I mean, when I asked the question, what is so important about 4 when you likely are going to have 4 anyway, if not more, if we went all at larges? Yes. And the response I got was cost certainty.
Oh,
so like,
that's terrible.
Beat your head against the wall as much as you want. No. Like, that was the response I got when I asked the question.
Right. And I understand. Like, to me, more should be made of that. Like, you shouldn't be guaranteed anything. No, there should be zero guarantee. You have to earn it. And I don't understand why that's so hard. Coaches yell about that all the time. You got to earn it. Nobody's giving anything. Except here, we're giving something. That's my larger point about all of this, is that it seems like, especially the SEC, which, just to flip this to basketball for a second, they might get 14 teams into the NCAA tournament, and I'm 100% on board with that. What? I want the best teams in that field. I don't care if you play in a difficult league and your record doesn't look as good, but Georgia just beat Florida last night, right? Mm-hmm. Georgia's record ain't good, but I think they're an NCAA tournament team. Put them in. I got zero problem with it. I think the same thing about Vanderbilt. I don't think their record's great. Put them in. Arkansas, put them in. To me, those are NCAA tournament caliber teams. I don't care how good Wake's record is. I don't think they're a tournament team. I have my doubts about North Carolina, even with 21 or 22 wins. I don't know that Carolina would win 5 games in the SEC. So,
isn't it disappointing for Wake Forest? This will be 3 years in a row that you did it to yourself.
Yeah, but right? I think when you lose games like that, you have proven. To me, it's the bad. I've never understood. Like, I'm all over the place today. I might have been up late last night, Chip. Chip Patterson is with us here, as he is on every Wednesday. To me, I've always wondered why we assign more. We should assign more importance to the wins or the good games, the good teams that you play. Like North Carolina, if they lose 3 times to Duke this year. Now, getting blown out 3 times to Duke would be different. But if they lose 3 times to Duke, doesn't mean they can't beat a whole bunch of other good teams. But it's the losses to bad teams that I think says more about who UNC is, who Wake Forest is. Heck, what happened to Pitt? Mm-hmm. Completely fell apart.
Pitt's done.
Yeah, I think they are.
Yeah,
I think.
I mean, and I don't do bracketology. You know, a long time ago, I got my hand stuck in the cookie jar, even daring to be a bracketologist. And our Sir Jerry Palm came down with his sword and he struck me down. So I stay in my more wagering centric, power rating centric,
right.
Chipolytics centric view of the world. That's where they ask me to contribute, and I do so. But yeah, I just think Pitt's cooked. You find these teams where they've lost their footing, and at one point in January or February they showed glimpses of it, but it's disappointing for Jeff Capel's crew, because I thought that was a team that could be in the NCAA tournament. But to your point, and especially with the Notre Dame loss, I mean, it's just you're done.
Yes. Real quick because I saw Pitt when they came to Duke, and I know Duke won the game by like 20-something points. But my takeaway from that game was Duke won that game by 20-something points because Duke is a wagon. I thought Pitt was good. My takeaway from that game was, man, Pitt can play.
Yeah, I know.
And they were broken by that game. I think they lost their next 4 after that, and they have not been the same since, and they have suffered inexplicable losses.
Duke team total over just might be a system play at this point. I mean, I could, and here's the thing is they aren't playing down.
No.
Like we think about the, especially in this area, we have had some wagons in college basketball. Mm-hmm. Teams that have gone through an NCAA tournament winning every game by double digits.
Carolina, 09.
You saw during the regular season, they'd slip up from time to time, but, get caught in something tight, need Ty Lawson to bail you out in Tallahassee. But for the most part, it was a group that just laid the wood every single time. And Duke's got that kind of look about them, man. They are relentless with the way that they pick teams apart.
They have 3 losses this year. They had the ball with a chance to take the lead or win in the last 30 seconds of all 3 of those games. All 3 of them. And none of them were at home. At Clemson, at Kansas, and was it at Kansas? Or that was they were both
Kansas
neutral.
And neutral Kentucky.
Right. Were they at Kansas, or was that also neutral? I don't know. I don't remember anymore. My brain does not function. Chip Patterson is joining us here. Dave Doran announced that all 15 practices would be closed to the media. Would be closed. No spring game. They canceled the spring game at Nebraska. What are people that paranoid? Or I guess schools are tampering, recruiting, portaling off of spring games? What happened to spring football and the joys of the spring game, and what is the SEC network and ACC network going to do without them?
Okay, now we're talking. See, I think the failures in the boardroom of a college football playoff meeting are small, and I think the failures of college football coaches with this decision to cancel the spring game among tampering paranoia are ruining the future of the sport. Because here's the deal. College football spring games are one of the most accessible ways for fans to get close to their favorite college football team. It is one of the best ways for a young fan to be able to experience college football at the highest levels. At Ohio State, the cost to be able to go to a game with a family of 4 is going through the roof. But if you want to go to their spring showcase, it's $8 general admission.
Wow.
At Oregon, it is a canned food drive to get you in the door. Many Power Conference spring games are free admission. And these kids and these parents, the kids don't even know it's not even a real game. Because if there are helmets, if there are pads, if there are jerseys, if they play music after touchdowns and there are cheerleaders and snacks, it is a football game. And I just think that this paranoia is leading everybody to strip away a great avenue to create your, excuse me. I forgot we're all about money in college sports now. Let me speak their language there. You are denying the opportunity to connect with your future customer base that you will be catering to for decades to come. You are denying yourself an opportunity to establish that kind of relationship that ROI cannot measure. And I think it is a disgrace that families and children are not able to experience college football in a fan-forward environment like the spring game because they're being taken off the board. Because there's one last thing. I understand injury risk. I understand you're playing 30 games in 2 years. Steve Sarkisian said as much. Then at least create something that your fans can be a part of. Don't go OTAs, 15 games, closed door. Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, they do 7-on-7 football, a hot dog eating contest, and tug of war with the offensive line. But the place packs out and everybody gets to experience it. Do not deny yourself a chance to connect with the future of your fans.
That was one of the all-time great Chip Patterson rants.
There's a column on CBSSports.com that I read yesterday.
I apologize for not reading it. Man, that is so. But what you're saying is that, and by the way, this is indicative, I think, all over our society. It's not just athletics. We have a very short-sighted view of everything.
Short-sightedness, 100%.
Right? And we're the word investing needs to be used more, because what these programs should be doing is investing in their customers, investing in young people, investing in their fans, but they really turn them away. And it is paranoia. When Matt Rule said it, I don't know how many players they lost to the portal after the spring game. I get it, but honestly, when you sell 90,000 tickets or whatever they do to pack the stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska in the middle of April for fake football, I just don't know how you take that away from your fan base.
Yeah. I mean, so we started, because Texas and USC, they added their name to the list of growing cancellations over the weekend. Matt Rule, as you mentioned, was at the forefront of it. And on Monday's Cover 3 podcast, we were just wandering through the question, just having a conversation. And I just off the top of my head, I said, isn't this one of the ways that young fans fall in love with college football? Isn't this an avenue that someone who could never be able to afford to get inside the stadium in the fall would be able to afford? We've got a 10% markup on season tickets for what's called a, quote, talent fee.
Talent fee, yep. I think Tennessee started that.
We are pricing out the everyday fan. Yep. We are pricing out young people. And I know I'm old man yelling at Cloud, and I know that I'm sitting here as the father of 2 boys who, I've taken I've taken my oldest son to Broughton High School football game, and guess what? It was a football game. It was Broughton, but it was a football game. There was a marching band. There were cheerleaders. They play music after you score the touchdown. It was a football game. And I remember throwing the football around in the concourse at Carter Finley Stadium in Wallace Wade as a kid. My parents had season tickets at North Carolina. Like I see the families getting squeezed out of college football at the highest level, and ultimately that is denying yourself a chance to turn young people into diehard fans.
That speaks again all across sports, all across, and it is one of those sad things. All right, I'm sure there are a ton of other things that we could get to real quick. Miami and Carson Beck, a bad marriage, or what do you think's going to happen there?
I think he'll be pretty good as long as he comes back healthy. I mean, we're talking about an elbow Tommy John type surgery for a quarterback on his throwing arm.
Doesn't he have? Isn't he out of cars now? Weren't all his cars stolen?
Nope. No thanks.
We'll just leave it. Chip Patterson, you are the best, man.
Oh, all right. One last one. Sure. Okay. So after the news broke, and what Adam is referencing is that Carson Beck had like Lamborghinis and a Mercedes.
He had two cars. And Haley? Is it Haley Cavendish?
Hannah Cavendish.
Hannah, his girlfriend, one of the Cavendish twins, she had a car. 3 cars stolen from their house.
And do you know what they said on the Georgia message boards after the news broke?
No.
Even his cars get intercepted.
Oh! Ouch! That one hurt. You're the man.
All right. Sounds good. Y'all be well.